Yo, Liam here, back with another episode of the Minecraft Survival Games. Today, I'm commemorating the 10-year anniversary of when I completed the Minecraft with Liam project on YouTube. The last time you guys heard from me was August 5th, 2016. I was 18 then, I'm 28 now, so I have a great one-time survival games marathon in store for you guys today. And when I mean the survival games, I mean on the actual MCSG servers. Yes, you heard me correctly. When I had the idea for this video, I looked online, saw if MCSG was still around, and apparently they're opening it up for some sort of like beta testing. But anyway, they got the server going. I have the IP linked in the description below if you want to play too. And hey, if you missed me, if you want to know what I've been up to for the last 10 years, if you want to hear my thoughts about Minecraft and the current gaming landscape, and if you want to hear my thoughts on life now that I'm 28 instead of 18, you're in the right spot. Kick back, relax, and without further ado, let's get straight to the action. Man, nothing brings back memories like playing MCSG. So, I'll try to get some gear off of spawn and then we'll get into exactly what I've been up to and where I am these days. Okay, got some decent gear it looks like. Alright, so anyway, MCSG is back, which is obviously really exciting. And believe it or not, this is the same PC I used to record Minecraft with Liam videos on. The only difference is that I had a 1060 in here that did fry itself during college. So I did have to go and get a new one of those. But that was maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. So since then, it's pretty much been the exact same computer. I still have the same monitors, but unfortunately all the accessories are a bit different. So I do have a new keyboard, I do have a new headset, and I apologize. I know that my new mic is worse than my old one, but it just is what it is. And, I'm still using the old texture pack, I'm still using the old shaders. I'm using a different mouse, different webcam, so, I tried to recreate the experience as authentically as possible. Okay. Sorry, I am a bit rusty after all here with all this. And, I still have the same face cam border, and if I edit this correctly, I still have the Tobu and Monstercat tracks playing in the background. How cool is that? So anyway, I really wanted to spend time with this video to kind of just update you guys on what I did with my life the last 10 years. Obviously, when I finished, I was 18 and I was about to head off to college. And then that was kind of the last time you guys really heard from me. So I said it on YouTube at the time, but I ended up going to Clemson University. And when I was there, I was a financial management major. And that was something I kind of knew going in. Finance is kind of the discipline I wanted to go to. And at no point during my time during college did I think I was on the wrong track. The entire time, I'm like, this is for me. So, that was very good to be a part of it. And I worked really hard in college in all my classes. I tried to always be at the top of the class, and I, worked my way to get there. And, yeah, I worked my way to the top of the class, and I got admitted to their honors college, so I got a general degree in the honors college as well as this special departmental degree. So I really exhausted the curriculum as much as I could to get the most out of it. But, just because I was studying a ton doesn't mean I didn't have a lot of fun or anything. Quite the contrary, actually. I was very involved as a student, and, I had a ton of friends, and, college was a really great experience. The main thing I'd say I was involved with was Clemson Crew, which is the rowing club they have at Clemson. This is a club program that anyone can sign up for, men and women. It's not like an NCAA program that you got to qualify for and there's scholarship opportunities. It's not like that. It's for fun, but we still competed and everything like that. And I had rowed in high school, so, I definitely knew I wanted to continue to row in college. And that's where I met all of my closest friends. It was really a great experience. And it was so nice. I met some of the coolest, funniest, most genuine people on that rowing club. And, it was just nice to have such a good group of friends considering I was so far away. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, of course. Clemson's all the way in South Carolina. We did all of our rowing on Lake Hartwell, which is a beautiful lake in South Carolina. And it's like right next to the campus. It's pretty much on the campus, actually. So, it was just a very beautiful spot to row, and the lake was huge. We never ran out of water, so to speak, because some rowing clubs at some schools, they just don't have a lot of water to row on, unfortunately, so they kind of have to turn themselves around constantly. But Hartwell was great. My freshman year was actually the most successful year, believe it or not. We won a ton of races then, and we even got some silver and bronze medals at some very, very tough regattas. So that was just a very impressive showing. But unfortunately, I think sophomore, junior, senior year, they just didn't go as well. To be honest, I think I'd kind of pin a lot of that on the coach. I just don't think he... How do I get out of this thing again? I don't know. I guess I'll just crash into a wall and hope I don't need another boat. um, but anyway, I would pin a lot of the blame on my coach because I think he was a good coach for somebody that could train people who were in like their second and third year of the sport. Because you can still make a lot of improvement there. But when you're on your like sixth, seventh, eighth year, like I was and some of the other guys were, the workouts he was scheduling were just a bit too easy for us, and as a result, I just don't think we were able to make the improvements we needed. I mean, team-wise, we performed poorly at most of the races. We had a couple good ones here or there, but we didn't perform super well, unfortunately. And then, one other stat that always comes out to me is of all of the guys who had rowed all 4 years of high school and then kept up with it in college, nobody hit a new personal best on their 2,000 meter time after their sophomore year. So it was just kind of like, I am a little upset that like a lot of my time with that club did get wasted, it seemed. But, I still had a lot of fun memories with friends. We'd have parties every weekend. We'd have dinner together every night after practice. It was really special. But two things I want to highlight that were really special about club rowing are, number one, I got to compete at the Head of the Charles my junior year. And for those of you that don't know, the Head of the Charles is the biggest regatta in the entire world. It's hosted in Boston, Massachusetts to 80,000 spectators. And getting to go is a huge honor because it is just so competitive to get an entry in. You have to pay this massive fee and enter this lottery system where your odds of getting your bid submitted is like maybe 20 or 25%. Like the odds are so slim, and a few planets had to line up for me to be able to go. So number one, we submitted a bid for an 8 and a 4, and we got both of them, so we had 12 spots available for rowers. And with all of that, I was the bottom of the depth chart of the people who got accepted. So I was able to snag like one of the last rowing spots in one of the boats to be able to compete at that thing. And if we had missed one of the entries, or if like we had had one more guy who was a bit better than me, I would have missed out. But getting to compete at that regatta was a truly special experience. And then I was also the vice president of the Clemson University Rowing Association my junior year, which meant I had to plan and organize and host 2 regattas. So thousands of people came into town to race, so I had to organize everything. I had to get the referees, I had to get, the entries figured out. I had to order the porta potties and the food and the medals and, all the promotions for it, and, work with all of our vendors and communicate with all the teams. And it was a huge ordeal, but it came together really well at the end. And that was hard to pull together because I was a full-time student and a full-time rower at the same time. So I had to plan all of that while taking care of the rest of that. So being able to pull those regattas off was really something special. And I know I haven't really been focusing on the game too much here. So hopefully I can win in deathmatch. My ping, I don't think is very good. A lot of the players, when I was kind of testing out my recording stuff, seemed like they were kind of, you know, they would kind of like just stutter a bit. Okay, maybe we can clean one of these guys up. Okay, that worked. Oh my gosh, can I start off with a win? Man, he's all over the place. Got some golden apples. I'm shaking right now, dude. Oh my gosh! I actually won! My first game back on the video! That is insane! Yes, man, that's how we start a recording. So anyway, we'll go over to the next game. Man, wasn't that an exciting finish to the previous round? Anyway, before I get back to college stuff, one other thing I wanted to mention is that I did lose access to my original MC with Liam account, the one with the diamond donor rank that you guys helped pay for. So thank you again for all those donations, but it is really unfortunate that I lost the money, or, you know, I lost the money that had been put toward that account because I lost the account. Ooh, that was a trap. The reason I lost the account is because apparently Microsoft forced everybody to do this. Let me try going this way. They forced everybody to do this 3-year. Oh, isn't that a trap? Mojang forced everybody to do this migration from a Mojang account to a Microsoft account, and you had kind of a 3-year window to do it. But I was completely unaware that that was a thing, so now I cannot access my old MC with Liam account. There's absolutely no way to recover it, even if I reach out to customer service. So I just had to make a new MC _with _Liam account, which is really unfortunate. Let me see if I can scoot along this way. But yeah, I mean, thankfully I'm an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, so I was able to, you know, not have to pay for a fresh new copy of the game again. Isn't there some chests near here that are pretty good? Oh. Oh, already died. Well, that's all I had to say about losing my name. I guess we'll jump into the next match. Hopefully we have much better luck this match. So anyway, kind of getting back to my college stuff, rowing wasn't the only thing I was involved with. I actually got involved with a service fraternity called Alpha Phi Omega my sophomore year. And I use the word fraternity in kind of air quotes here, reason being they accepted both men and women. So, okay, I did not have time to grab that chest plate. They accepted both men and women. So, you know, it was kind of this co-ed deal. And, you know, we did a lot of service projects in the Clemson community, which was really nice. But the main reason I wanted to join is just to have another friend group. You know, the rowing team, I already talked about that I really liked the friends I met in that club. And, you know, they ended up being my closest friends during college. But when you spend all your free time with the same people, you know, it eventually gets kind of old and you need a bit of a palate cleanser, so having a new friend group is great for that. So I thought Alpha Phi Omega would be where I would meet a lot of friends, and I did meet some close friends, some of which I'm still with today, or still friends with today, I should say. But, you know, overall the organization was just not for me. I think there was just too much, like, internal politics within the organization that just made it very unenjoyable for everybody, which is insane just because, you know, it should have been an organization all about service and helping others, but like, it was just kind of not the best crowd. But the one thing that was really nice that I got out of Alpha Phi Omega is that's where I met Kristen, who we started dating during college, and she is now my wife. Believe it or not, check out that wedding ring. You know, we got married in 2024, and I'll explain more about that later, but we met at like this beach event with Alpha Phi Omega during college. We had a long talk that night, like just getting to know each other. We really hit it off quickly. You know, we were good friends for a couple months, and then I asked her out, and, you know, we dated all through college. And I'll kind of get into how the relationship progressed and all that after college, but, you know, that was the main thing I got out of Alpha Phi Omega, so to speak. You know, and for not everyone's going to appreciate what I'm about to say, but for those of you who are into sports, you know that when I was at Clemson from 2016 to 2020 was like the prime time for football, dude. In high school and stuff, I was not a fan of football, like, whatsoever. I never really watched football. I'd maybe watch the Super Bowl just because, you know, it would be such a huge cultural event. So once I got to college, like, it was this thing that was kind of an acquired taste for me. I really had to learn how to get into it, and thankfully a lot of my friends in my freshman dorm wanted to help get me into it. So I'm trying to go back to spawn and build an iron sword here, but it looks kind of risky. Maybe I can go now. They're running away. You know, they helped me learn what football was all about, taught me about kind of the history, who the key players were, all like that. In my freshman year, Clemson won a national championship, and then my junior year, they won another. That first one was with Deshaun Watson, which, you know, if you know what happened to him, it's really unfortunate what happened to him. But when we didn't know that all that was going on, it was a really exciting season. Clemson just barely, and I mean barely, with the second on the clock, eked out the win over Alabama. That touchdown from Watson to Hunter Renfrow was a thing of beauty. It was marvelous. So much fun to be there when Clemson was in its prime. I think my sophomore year, Kelly Bryant was the Clemson quarterback, and I think he got Clemson eliminated in the semifinal. He just didn't play that well. And then we got Trevor Lawrence, who is now the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. But, you know, he was a true freshman coming in, and, you know, he just went beast mode. I don't think he lost any game he started that first year. And then even that second year, he didn't lose until the national championship game against LSU. So my junior year, that's when Trevor Lawrence won the Natty. Super cool. They blew the brakes off of Alabama in that game. And then that second year was the Natty against Joe Burrow's LSU, which, you know, that might be the best offense that's ever been assembled in college football. So Clemson, you know, they put up a fight, but they didn't really do too well in that game. So, you know, 2 national championships is still very exciting. I know most people don't get any during their college experience, so I'm very fortunate that I had that for me. And I actually got to, like, Taco Bell had some contest for students where you could, like, enter your name in some lottery and get tickets to the national championship for free. So I actually got to go to New Orleans at the Superdome to see Clemson play LSU in that national championship, which was a pretty cool experience. Looks like we're going to deathmatch here, so hopefully I go up against some easy people like I had in that first match. Hopefully I can squeeze out a win here. So let's see who we got. Am I blind? Okay, there's one person. Where's everyone else? Oh, one's behind that pole. I don't know. Aren't there supposed to be 2 other guys? There's one there. There's one there. Oh, well. I guess I just got to hope that... You know, oh, he was over there, I guess. Okay, well, let's see. Hopefully these people aren't teamed. Want to clean up crew here, because I'm not what I used to be, no doubt, and plus, like, this ping is absolutely brutal. Okay, here he comes. Man, I just can't. Okay, I did not put up much of a fight there, but, you know, the ping and stuff was getting to me. Hopefully I have better luck in the next match. So anyway, talking about some other stuff with college, in between my freshman and sophomore year, and then again between my sophomore and junior years, I was a summer camp counselor, but then between junior and senior year, I decided I was going to need some more professional experience on the resume. So I tried to land a finance internship, but the options were honestly pretty slim, and it was very competitive, and I ended up getting a sales internship instead. Which, you know, I still think I got a lot of good experience out of that. And the company I worked for, which I don't want to disclose the name of it just because I don't want to mention professional stuff in this video. You know, I got to work at the Dallas branch for that company, so that was nice, and I had a really fun team I got to work alongside with. And I think during that internship, I discovered that sales was somewhat adjacent to me. Like, you know, I think I enjoy talking, and people, you know, they seem to like me, and they think I can be kind of funny and unique sometimes. But I realized one thing I'm just not as good at is being able to, like, respond to people or think of good, quick responses. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I can say the correct responses in a conversation with somebody to convince them to do the thing that I want them to do, at least as naturally as you need to be able to do it to be excellent in the sales role. But, you know, it was still fun. I'm glad I had that internship opportunity. But then when it was senior year, obviously it was time to start looking into what type of job I wanted, but also, like, where was I going to live? You know what I mean? So Kristen and I had talked by this point, and, you know, both of us agreed that Charlotte, North Carolina would be the place that we needed to move to. For me, it felt like it was going to be very similar to Dallas, a lot of finance jobs, a lot of young professionals for both of us, being that it was close to Clemson, you know, only 2.5 hours away. A lot of our friends from school would probably be moving out there. For her, you know, it was near family, a lot of good job opportunities for the stuff she's into as well. So I think it was just a really obvious choice for us to make. But there was one hiccup that kind of threw a wrench into things, and that was that COVID hit when I was a senior in college. So I was scheduled to graduate May of 2020, and I did, but COVID obviously came that March. I need a helmet still. COVID obviously came that March. I don't want to fight that guy just yet, so I might kind of backtrack over here a little. COVID hit during March, and I did line myself up with the job, and thankfully it just pushed the start date back 4 weeks. I know some people who lost their job opportunities entirely, so I was grateful for just a mild delay. But this job was kind of unique, so let me explain kind of the parameters of it. The company is headquartered in Charlotte, but they have business units all across the U.S., and I signed up for a 2-year rotational program. And how that works is there would be 3 rotations, and for each rotation I would move to a different city, like move all my stuff, my address, my apartment, everything, pack up everything. And I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight him yet either, so I'll just move along. You have to move everything, and at each rotation you learn a completely different financial discipline. So at my first rotation, I was doing financial planning and analysis in Charlotte, and this was my favorite of the 3 rotations. I had a great boss and a great team, so that already made things great. And I really liked financial planning and analysis. So if you don't know what that is, basically, you know, companies, they need to make financial projections for how they're going to do for their upcoming periods. So that's what I had to help do. And then once the actuals kind of roll through, like once the time period is come and gone that you forecasted, you need to, like, prepare commentary and analysis on, you know, what did the forecast get right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in the tree. I just don't know the jumping off point. Oops, maybe it was there. You know, you would have to just discuss how the company had performed, what went well, what didn't, what you forecasted well, what could have been forecasted better. You know, and all that stuff is something I really enjoy, and I really got a lot out of that rotation. I mean, one thing that was also really nice about that rotation is because it was COVID and all that, I did get to work remotely 5 days a week, and especially doing long distance with Kristen. I mean, I say long distance, she was remote too. Oh, whoa. Whoa! Oh, well. But as I was saying, Kristen was fully remote in Charlotte. She was a year younger than me, so she was doing school remotely at Clemson. Clemson and Charlotte are only 2.5 hours away, so I'd be able to visit her often, she'd be able to visit me often. So even though we lived in 2 different cities, it didn't feel like, it didn't feel like we were worlds apart from each other. So, that's how the first rotation was going, and I'll tell you a bit more about Charlotte in the next match. Man, I hope this loads in correctly. Anyway, I think we're on Kamun Ra. But like I was saying, work was going all right. I really enjoyed living in Charlotte, North Carolina. But, it was COVID, so it was kind of hard to get out there and make friends just because everything was still shut down, of course. Okay. Let's get out of here. Oh, one person's following me, so I'll just... I have no chest route or anything for this, so I don't remember much about this map. But anyway, it was still COVID, so making friends was, it wasn't really as straightforward as it could have been. I know I still wanted to be involved with rowing, so I reached out to a local club in Charlotte to see, if they were still active despite the pandemic going on. And thankfully they were. They were only letting people go out in singles or doubles if you and the other person were of the same household. So, I didn't really know anyone else with, I don't know what that is. I didn't really know anyone else with the club, so I was just in a single every time we practiced, which was 3 days a week. But it was still really nice to at least be able to go out on the water. And, the club was still pretty active, and I actually met a lot of friends with that club, so it was a very worthwhile experience, and it definitely helped get me out of the apartment because I was living by myself. So, it was just a really nice thing to have. It was nice to still have that as a part of my life when the entire world had shut down. But, this first rotation was only going to last 9 months, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I really got no say in where I would be sent to next. So this entire time I was just waiting and waiting to be assigned to a new city. And that was kind of scary, but also kind of exciting. I mean, there were some good cities on the docket. Chicago would have been an exciting city because my brother lived there at the time, as well as a couple of my friends. And, Orlando was also a potential option. Obviously, they have all the Disney and Universal parks, so that would have been... Where are all the chests? That would have been really fun for someone to come down to, like if Kristen was down for the weekend or if one of my friends wanted to roll through. Orlando would have been a great option. But no, that ended up not being the case. I hop on the call and I find out that my next assignment is going to be in Kansas City. And... man, it was so devastating to hear that because I didn't want to go to Kansas City at all. It just didn't really seem that exciting to me, and I knew very little about the city, but it just turned out to just really be a place that was not for me. I'm from the South. Those of you who watched the channel for a while knew that I grew up in Dallas, Texas. And, Charlotte is a very... I gotta find a sword quick. Ooh, I don't know. Being like Charlotte feels very similar to Dallas in a lot of ways. It still has that southern hospitality and everything. So, I felt right at home in Charlotte, but Kansas was a whole new world in the Midwest. I mean, for starters, everyone I met in Kansas City was either from Kansas or Missouri. They weren't really anywhere. They weren't really from anywhere else. The summers were still really hot, but the winters were so cold, man. I just never experienced cold winters like that, where it would get in the single digits or the negatives. Thankfully, it didn't snow a lot. It did snow once or twice. The second time it snowed was when I was actively moving out, so that was a huge pain in the butt to deal with. Man, I totally didn't get a sword. Can you drop me a weapon? Man, yeah, I really don't have anything. I should have looked at those spawn chests. Hopefully this person plays nice. I doubt it, though. But anyway, if I have one good thing to say about Kansas City is that they do have pretty good Kansas City barbecue. But, considering I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I still have family there, and, oops. just one iron ingot if I can snag another. You know, I live in North Carolina now, and I have a lot of family in Dallas, so, like, having access to good barbecue was always something I could do. I wonder why no one's killing anyone yet. Why is nobody killing anyone? I don't know. This is weird. But yeah, I mean, Kansas City Joe's Barbecue is definitely the place if you're ever in the Kansas area. But yeah, I mean, it was just such a different way of life out there, and it was really hard to make friends. I did try to join a rowing club, but they just weren't that active. It was like pulling teeth to get anybody to come out and go to practice with me. Like, now my ping is good all of a sudden? What is this? Anyway, yeah, it was like pulling teeth getting to go to practice. Like, it'd be the usual scheduled practice times, but I'd be having to text people for like an hour or two just to get like one person to come out and row with me. So I didn't stick with that club for too long. After a couple months, I just called my mom and I was like, hey, if you come up to visit me, can you please bring my rowing machine? And that's what she did. So I just kind of rowed in my apartment on the machine. It was quite the lonely experience. And right now I'm just waiting out the clock. Hopefully the lightning strikes them or the chest refill or something, or I'm able to get a sword. I don't even have a bow, dude. This is ridiculous. Okay, this isn't going to work in my favor. Someone just died. Okay, can I get... Worth a shot, I guess. I mean, hey, got in the top two. But yeah, I mean, life in Kansas City wasn't going too well, and I'll continue talking about it in the next round. So one of the things that added to the loneliness of Kansas City is that we were now at a point where Kristen was really far away from me. She moved to Charlotte, North Carolina after school, and I was all the way in Kansas City. Flights from Kansas City to Charlotte are not direct, so that made it really complicated, especially with work hours and stuff, to try to find flights that would work. And, you know, at first she was fully remote and I was fully remote, so that was easy to work with off the jump. But then it got to this point where, I'm trying to remember, I think this was the pink house. It eventually got to this point. Yes. Hopefully I'm the first one here. Oh man, this is not a good chest, dude. Where's all the gear? I thought this was a tier 2. There we go. I need a weapon. There we go. Okay. I am much better prepared for this game than I have been in the past few. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, like, the long distance was really, we were really starting to feel it. You know, working remotely was working in our favor at first, but then once I had to go to the office 3 days a week, about halfway through the rotation, it really became a lot more complicated because then we were having to use PTO to see each other and things like that. But I guess the one thing that I haven't mentioned about Kansas City that I probably do need to talk about is what the actual job was. So I was sent out there to be a cost accountant. And for those of you that don't know what a cost accountant is, they try to find ways to save money on the manufacturing floor. So maybe they try to find cheaper materials for the same cost, or cheaper materials that have the same quality. And maybe they try to find, or was there a crafting bench in that house? I could go and make a diamond sword actually. They could also find ways to, you know, alleviate bottlenecks so your production is able to move more efficiently, so you're wasting less money on production, just things like that. And in and of itself, I think I realized pretty quick that, like, cost accounting is just not for me. I know there's a good chest around here somewhere. It's all coming back to me slowly. Cost accounting just wasn't for me, but, you know, it was, like, part of the rotation was finding out financial disciplines that you liked, But part of it too was finding out stuff that you didn't like, which was equally helpful because you knew you had this job that would only last like 8 or 9 months, and then you were guaranteed to be spit out somewhere else learning something different. So it was really nice that, like, even though I didn't like it, I knew that there was kind of a finish line to it all. Now, all that being said, the rotation ended up going very weird. Most of this was during 2021, so COVID was very much still a thing. And what was happening was, oh man, it's very bright with the shaders. COVID was still going on, so at my company, we were bleeding headcount like crazy at the manufacturing plant. And because we were bleeding headcount, there was a lot of overtime that people were having to do, which lowered morale, which caused more people to quit, which caused further overtime, which caused even more people to quit. And it was just this vicious cycle that we just could not escape. And because all that was going on when I was kind of this new person, I think I really got shortchanged with this rotation. I got kind of sidelined, so to speak, because the people who were like really on top of things at the company and the people who I guess were supposed to be overseeing my rotation were much more focused on just trying to stop that issue than getting me trained up. And I completely understand. I mean, especially being there for such a short amount of time, I definitely wasn't the priority. But that being said, it would have been nice to have learned a bit more and gotten a bit more in the weeds. Don't get me wrong, I did learn the basics. I do feel like I have a decent basis in cost accounting. If I recall, the rest of these houses are kind of worthless, so maybe I'll try going on the other side of the road, seeing if my luck's any better over there. I have good gear this game. Hopefully I'm able to ride that out to another win. But you know, like, I did learn the basics, and they did give me some attention, but there were certainly, more than I wish, there were certainly a lot of days where I would show up and have nothing to do from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then I'd go back home to my empty, lonely apartment, and you know, that was life for a lot of months. It was honestly very depressing, and it was just, you know, it's not a time in my life that I look back on fondly. I know there's a chest back here somewhere. Like, it is weird how, like, your memory, it all comes back to you. Remember, isn't it like back there or something? I know someone's probably screaming. Here it is. It's there. I see it. I'm not mistaken. Oh well, maybe I just can't reach it. Anyway, looks like we're going to deathmatch in a minute here. Only 3 tributes remain. So yeah, I mean, Kansas City just really wasn't it. There was a lot of wasted time there. And it just wasn't a pleasant experience. So obviously, I was very desperate to move out of there, and pretty much any location I could move to seemed like it was going to be an improvement over Kansas City. So I was hoping to get lucky with my next city in the lottery, and then, you know, I'm just waiting for months to have that meeting with the head of the rotational program. And the meeting comes, and where do I get sent to next? Cincinnati, which, you know, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. I was still hoping for Orlando or Chicago, but, you know, Cincinnati definitely seemed like it was going to be an upgrade over Kansas City, and it 100% was. And I know we're going to go into deathmatch here, so I'll focus on that. But when we get to the next match, I'll tell you what life in Cincinnati was like. So here we go. That guy's decked. Okay, I don't know where the other person is. Are they through the thingy? Okay, yeah, they're over there. So hopefully these two fight it out. Throw up a team symbol. I don't want to get caught on fire here. Okay, so I'm hiding. Okay, they're duking it out. Sorry I'm going all cleanup crew, but with the ping, it just is what it is. And I don't have bad internet. Like, I have AT&T fiber. I get a gigabyte down. It's pretty good. Ooh. I get a gigabyte down, but I guess the MCSG servers just must not be in the best shape. So I got him. This is agonizing. walked straight into that one. I just couldn't do anything about that ping, man. It is what it is. Still a fun match, though, so I'll tell you guys about Cincinnati in the next match here. So getting into Cincinnati a little bit, it actually was a substantial improvement over Kansas City. It wasn't perfect by any means, but there were quite a few things that made it better. Let me get off spawn here first, and I'll tell you why I liked it a bit more. I thought Cincinnati was a lot better for a few reasons. The first of which was that it was much closer to Kristen, so flights were a lot easier to manage with work hours just because Cincinnati is a bit closer to the East Coast than Kansas City. So we were able to visit each other a bit more. Ooh, that's a good chest. We were able to visit each other a lot more easily, so that was really nice. On top of that, like, I had a friend in Pennsylvania, my brother was in Chicago, I had a couple other friends in Chicago, all of which was driving distance from Cincinnati, so people could come and visit me on the weekends, I could go and visit them. It felt like there were just a lot more options. Someone probably already got that thing, but let me check. I know the hole is... Yeah, someone already looted that. Better get out of here before somebody nabs me. So yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like I had more options with my friends that I normally had. But on top of that, I didn't really have anyone else to go to. Like, I didn't try to make any new friends just because I knew I would only be there for about 6 months. It was February when I moved there, so obviously it was very cold in Cincinnati, so I didn't want to join a rowing club, because, you know, it'd be cold for a few months, so we wouldn't get out on the water, and then once it warmed up, it would already be time to leave, so I just continued to use the rowing machine in my apartment. If I recall, this thing down here is a trap, so that guy might have totally trapped himself, funny enough, but, you know, like, it wasn't, you know, I still had some of my old friends, but I wasn't going out there making new friends. I mean, the, like, final stages of COVID were still kind of there. I think there's, like, a trap door with a chest somewhere in this vicinity. I'm just trying to remember where that was. But anyway, let me talk about what this new job was actually like. So I was doing acquisition integration at this job. So my company had just acquired the Cincinnati branch, and my job was to integrate their finances into the overall company's finances. So every month, you know, you complete your financials. I would have to take the data from the Cincinnati branch, and I would have to translate it correctly over to the larger company's financial statements. And, you know, that was a lot of effort, but it was a very valuable experience. The Cincinnati team needed me a lot because I kind of had to teach them, you know, all the verbiage and timing that the main company was going to be requesting data from. So they needed my help. So I was very happy that I had a lot more to do at this rotation. Now, I still had plenty of days where there was nothing to do, but it was nice to have like one overarching project that really felt like it was useful, and I made my mark, and I got a lot of good experience out of it. I did have to go to the office 5 days a week, which, you know, I was not the biggest fan of. I'm going to try to climb that tower. I wasn't the biggest fan of going to the office every day, and actually that's the only time in my professional career where I've actually been mandated to be at the office all 5 days. So it did get a bit old quick, but, you know, there was a decent enough stuff to do a decent amount of the time to make it worthwhile. Now, the thing about acquisition integration is, you know, once the companies are integrated, like, that's it. There really isn't a need for you anymore. So I did like some aspects of acquisition integration, but I realized that it wasn't something I would ever want to do full time. Just because if you do, like, if you want to be an acquisitions guy and help with that, you have to move. No, this is parkour. You have to move company to company, city to city to help with that sort of thing. And that just sounds very exhausting, especially Chris and I were still doing the long distance. and we kind of had enough of it by this point. And, you know, we were just trying to find any way possible to get me to move back to Charlotte. Now, while I was biding my time with this job, you know, I never really got to pick where my rotations were, but at the end of the program, they always said that I would have the opportunity to kind of pick where I ended up. So, you know, I'm waiting, and then I finally get the list of all the potential jobs and cities of where I could move and what role I could be doing. And I see a financial planning and analysis job in Charlotte, North Carolina, with my old team that I really liked, with my very excellent boss, and it seemed like a dream come true. Like, after putting up with all the moving, all the lackluster rotations and stuff, I was finally getting like the exact role that I wanted. And at first, it very much seemed like a dream come true. And I mean, coming back to Charlotte was absolutely fantastic. Kristen and I didn't have to do long distance anymore, and I moved into the apartment building across the street from her. And, you know, that was really nice. So we got to see each other every day. And that rowing club I made a lot of inroads with in 2020 when they were just in the singles and doubles. You know, they were now doing 4s and 8s and going to competitions. Like, rowing was back, dude. And a lot of my friends from Clemson had moved to Charlotte. So, like, I went from having a very lonely life to having, like, my life fully put together extremely quickly. It was so magical, and that was just, you know, it just felt like every day I woke up, I was so grateful to be there just because of how lonely Kansas City and Cincinnati had been. I really cannot stress that enough, how bad and lonely it was living out there just by myself, biding my time. But anyway, you know, when I started, oh, here's a guy, maybe I could take him. I'm down a hill, I better run away. Hopefully he's not on me. Okay, got a good jump. Okay, hopefully that gets him to back off. I'd like this match to last a little bit longer if possible. Okay, anyway. So, you know, I was very grateful to be back. And at first, things were really great when I started. My new job, I was really enjoying it and everything. But I only stayed in that position for 1 year. And that's just because it started out great, but slowly but surely, it just kind of turned from a dream into a nightmare. You know, starting off, I was only having to go to the office 2 days a week. I was pretty busy. I felt like I had the right amount of workload for someone at my level. Here we go. I felt like I had the right amount of work for somebody at my level. I felt like I was very involved, getting the experience I needed to be getting, and the team was great. But then a couple of team members left. Please, no. I don't want to fight this guy. I don't want to fight this guy. I don't have any gear. Or I do, but I don't have the ping to back it up. I kind of have to hope that this guy will clean up the mess. Hopefully they aren't in cahoots. You know, it started out great, but then a couple of the team members left. You know, that wasn't good. And then, you know, 2 days a week in the office was nice at first. But then what started to happen was sometimes I'd have to come in like 3 or 4 days a week, which wasn't a big deal. It was only every once in a while. But then they really started to hammer me on hours. I used to be able to leave at, you know, 5:30 each day. But then they're like, we need you to be here till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And, you know, a lot of that was depending on at what point we were during quarter. These guys are just not going to leave me alone. Wait, I have a boat. I can scoot on out. Oh, well. I tried my best, but I just don't have the ping to be able to fight people like that. So we'll go into the next match. So as I was saying, the new job was going south quick. A lot of my good team members were leaving. They were making me come to the office a lot more. You know, longer hours. I was having to work late into the night a lot of nights. So all of that was really, not ideal. But I think what was the real nail in the coffin is that my old boss, who I really liked and respected and was such a good leader for our team, he transitioned to a new role in the company, and the guy they replaced him with was like an absolute nightmare to deal with. I'm not going to be able to get the chest in there, I don't think. How do I get those doors open? I don't know. Anyway, the new boss was such a nightmare to work with. And he was ultimately the main reason I ended up deciding to leave the company. I mean, let me kind of describe him, because, you know, I talked this job up just a few minutes ago, how it was in the exact role I wanted to do and everything. So I think I should probably explain, like, why I just wasn't able to maintain it anymore. I mean, first off, my new boss worked 24/7 for this company. And when I mean that, I mean every day. He would wake up at 6 a.m., drive to the office, work till midnight, go home, get a few hours of sleep, and do that. And he would do it 7 days a week, Saturday and Sunday included. He never took a moment off. And he had a wife and a kid, and I don't think he ever saw them. I saw him say goodnight to them on FaceTime a lot. It's kind of depressing when you really think about it. But he just worked 24/7. Now, the executives really liked that because, you know, his entire life was dedicated to the company, so he was always willing to help them out, and he spent a lot of times with the executives. But since I was lower on the totem pole than he was, I was kind of an afterthought in his mind, and it was always so difficult to get a hold of him. And because he was my boss, there were a lot of times where he would, like, I would need him to make a decision about something so I could progress with my work, and it'd be like 8:30 in the morning and I need a decision, but I couldn't get to him till like 3 p.m. So like a lot of time was just wasted dealing with those sorts of shenanigans. But I mean, on top of that, he was a perfectionist to his own detriment. I think he cared about his work, and I understand like taking pride in your work and wanting to like output the best quality thing possible, because it, you know, it reflects good if you do that. But like the analogy I'm going to use here, well, I guess I'll tell you that analogy in the next match. So the analogy I was going to use is that it'd be like if you were in school and you studied for a test for 3 hours and you got a 98, most people would be like, you know, that's time well spent, that's pretty good. But my boss, he'd be the type of person that would be like, no, you got to study for 50 hours to get the 100. And it's like, you know, that's a lot of time you got to invest. And that entire time that you're doing a project like that, you could be spending it on something else. You know, time is a resource that you do have to manage. So it was awful because, like, we would have projects that would normally take a day. And I knew how long these projects would take. I mean, keep in mind, I did a lot of this stuff during my first rotation. And I had been in this role for a little under a year at this point. So I knew how long stuff took. Stuff that would normally take a day was going to take weeks. And stuff that would normally take like a week would now take like a month. Sometimes multiple months. And sometimes we just wouldn't even finish projects that we were assigned. And I mean, speaking of projects that we were assigned, my boss would say yes to every project that came across our team's plate. And I mean, one of the worst examples I can think of is the accounting team had this awful, nasty project that they hated doing because of how time-consuming it was. And they had been looking to pawn it off to the finance team for years. But my old boss, the one that I really liked, he always held firm and said, no, we aren't going to do that. That's your guys' responsibility. That is your project to deal with. But, you know, new boss comes in and he says yes to everything. So we got saddled up with this absolutely awful project. And I mean, buyer's remorse might not be the right word, but like when we were sitting in that meeting, when the accounting team was showing the project to us in its entirety, the look on his face, man, you could just tell he regretted everything. But he, you know, he accepted the project on behalf of our team, and we had to do it, and it was just this nightmare, never-ending project. And it was just so agonizing to come into work and have to deal with someone like that every day. I mean, I just think he just really didn't have the team's priorities straight. And, you know, that's ultimately why I ended up deciding to leave the company, especially because, yes, he was a very valuable employee that had a ton of knowledge and everything, but he was always busy with the executives. So, you know, I'm still being early in my career. It would have been nice to have, like, someone help look over my stuff a little bit closer, and he just wasn't there as much as I was hoping he would be there for me at that point. So anyway, exactly 1 year after I joined that new position, I left the company in its entirety, and I am now with a new company. Once I switched jobs, I never switched again. So I'm a senior financial analyst at my current company. I'm doing financial planning and analysis, which I really love. I know a lot of people think accounting and finance and all that stuff is boring, but I think I'm very well suited to it. And my new company is absolutely great. I'm getting a lot of good experience. I thought there was a chest somewhere down here, but the water is so foggy in this version. I don't really know if... I thought there was a chest behind this island. I swear there used to be one. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing it. But anyway, you know, I really like the people at my new company. Everyone generally has their priorities straight. I think that's a trap now that I remember. You know, everyone has their priorities straight. And this new job, they tell me what they require is my output. They tell me, you know, we need this forecast done or we need this commentary prepared, but they give me complete control and freedom to design my files, my processes, however I want. And as long as my final product is the output they requested and it's accurate and it's on time, you know, they're completely cool with it, which is how it should be. So I'm just so much happier. I know there's chests underwater, I just can't see them, but, you know, oh well. I'm just so much happier at this new company. I have no desire to leave. I mean, it's just such a more pleasant experience to work for them. And, you know, I still only have to go into the office 2 days a week, which is really nice. And I don't want to make it sound like I hate going into the office. Like, going into the office is useful for FaceTime with people, you know, and all that. Getting those, like, actual human interactions and reading body language and stuff. Sometimes it's just easier to do stuff in person. But by and large, it is really nice to work remote, especially when a lot of your stuff just really isn't dependent on other people 24/7. So that's something I really like about my new job. So yeah, everything on the job front is going well, but let me tell you about what happened with my relationship with Kristen, because I talked about how, you know, we were still dating once I moved back to Charlotte. I lived in the apartment across the street from her, and all was going well. I know I kind of touched on the long distance, but, like, despite the long distance, things were actually still going extremely well between us, and we were fostering a very healthy relationship. After about a year or so living in Charlotte, North Carolina, I proposed to Kristen on Mount Pisgah in Vermont. Looks like they have a custom deathmatch arena, so we'll do the deathmatch here real quick. And then I'll tell you, I'll probably even start the next match by telling you guys what Kristen's like. I really haven't gotten a chance to talk about her much, so I'll do that in the next round. I don't want to fight these people with the internet being in the position that it is. Stop, dude. Okay, I died pretty quick, and I know it looks like I'm not fighting too well, but I think cleanup crew is going to be my only strategy to get in some good hits. So I'll tell you guys about Kristen in the next match. So to describe Kristen, I mean, she has just been such a wonderful addition into my life. She's extremely beautiful, but more than that, she's extremely positive. She's very smart. We have the best conversations with one another. I didn't get anything there. We have the best conversations with one another, and I just think she understands me so well. You know, I'm a very particular type of person. I like things a certain way. So I think having someone like Kristen who can kind of like balance me out and meet me halfway on a lot of things is really nice, because I could just be pretty rigid at some points. Okay, thankfully no one's following me. I'm trying to remember. I think there's a good chest back here. Yes, there is. There certainly is. And then is there a good chest over here? Is it this one? I can't open that. This is ringing some sort of bell. You know, that was another good chest, but what I really need here is a weapon. But anyway, you know, Kristen has been so great. She gets along with everybody, which is really nice. Everybody really likes her. I just think she's just a very positive and fun person to be around. She always brightens my day. So just having her in my life has been an absolute blessing, and I'm grateful every day that I get to spend my life with her. So, like I said, we were on a trip in Vermont. I proposed to her on Mount Pisgah, and that was really special. And then about a year later, we got married in October 2024 in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, normally I probably wouldn't have much to say about the wedding, but this was Asheville, North Carolina, right after Hurricane Helene hit. And I know not everyone listening to this recording saw the wreckage from the hurricane, but dude, it was devastating. Asheville got absolutely wrecked. And to be more specific, the wedding was kind of like west of Asheville in the mountains. It wasn't really in the city. And you know, we've been planning the wedding like all year, and we didn't get a wedding planner. We planned the whole thing ourselves, so it was like a very stressful year leading up to the wedding. And then the hurricane hits, and it's like, oh no, what's going to happen? And, you know, thankfully a few things went in our favor. Number one, the wedding was 4 weeks after the hurricane. So, oh, whoops. There we go, stone sword. The wedding was, I think it was 4 weeks after the hurricane. So, you know, we had a bit of time to get our ducks in a row. If it had been like the week after or the second week after, I think we really would have been cooked. But, you know, I think we had enough time to get our affairs in order. And the venue itself, it was in the mountains, but it was kind of in the valley between some mountains, and this valley really didn't have a lot of trees. There were trees in the mountains in the distance, so all the scenery looked nice, but like right on the actual wedding site and where all that stuff was, there weren't any trees, so there wasn't anything to like fall over and, you know, knock something out. So we got lucky in that regard, and thankfully all of our vendors, you know, none of the vendors wanted to bail because they all needed the money. They were worried that they were going to lose their spot in the wedding, and, you know, they needed to keep their jobs afloat and stuff, and a lot of them had already bought the materials and supplies that they were going to need to, you know, do their thing at the wedding. So it was really nice that none of our vendors bailed. All of our guests were able to come out, and I guess I should say everyone I know who was affected by the hurricane ended up making it out okay. I mean, it was scary because like some of the people in my company work out of North Carolina. Maybe I could take this guy. Oh, I feel like I almost had that guy. Oh wow. But yeah, as I was saying, a few people in my company work out of Asheville, North Carolina, and I think a tree fell on one of their houses, and a couple of them were without power for a few weeks. But everyone ended up making it out of Helene all right. They were able to recover their homes, and the wedding ultimately went off without a hitch, and it was a very fun day. So I'll continue to talk about what the marriage has been like once I get into the next match. So after we got married, we moved in together. We moved into her apartment, so I packed up all my stuff, moved into her place, and she kicked her old roommate out, and then we were living together, which was really nice at first, but then what we realized extremely quickly is, you know, the apartment just felt kind of small. And it was especially noticeable on the remote work days, because she was working fully remote, and I would work 3 days remote, and sometimes like we both have a meeting at the same time, and you know, that was a little confusing. And it was a 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't like tiny, but it wasn't big either. And especially in the evenings, sometimes I'd want to use the TV in the main room to play video games, and sometimes she would want to use the TV to watch her shows. So, you know, like, we just didn't really have the breathing room that I think we really wanted. So we talked to, you know, once we were married, we got a financial advisor and everything, and we started talking to him about our financial position, and we were actually in the position to be able to get a house, which was really exciting. So, you know, we were looking on the market and everything, and, you know, we looked at a few houses, and it's kind of fun house searching in and of itself, but, you know, we were just searching for that perfect house, the good layout, the good neighborhood. We just wanted, where is that button? I know it's down here somewhere. I know there's some good chests back there. Oh, yes, I got it. Ooh, I can make a diamond sword. No, I can't. I need a stick. Got an iron helmet. Didn't see that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 other chests in here. Well, that chest wasn't very good. But anyway, you know, we started looking for a house. I don't think I did that correctly. I think I missed the other chests. Oh, well. Where's the button to get out of here? There it is. You know, we started looking together for a house, and we eventually found one that we loved the inside floor plan. It was within our price range. It was in a good neighborhood. And, you know, we packed up all of our stuff and moved. So, like, I do want to stress with all of this how often I moved since the age of 18. Because every year I moved to and from Clemson. And then I moved to Charlotte. Then I moved to Kansas City. Then to Cincinnati. Then to Charlotte at my own place. Then to Charlotte at my wife's place. And then to the house. So I had just been moving like crazy, and it was so nice to finally be settled in a location where I'm like, I'm gonna be there for a few years. All that moving had just gotten so exhausting, as you can imagine. Can I nab? Oh, okay, that is a good chest that I am gonna want to get, I think. I mean, it looks like a bunch of good armor and stuff, but I certainly don't want anyone else to get it, so I'll go snag that. But yeah, I mean, I did learn a couple of lessons when buying a house, so these are a couple things I'd keep in mind if you are, like, probably hoping to get a house in the next couple years. Number one is that, like, yes, you need to have the money saved up for the down payment, of course, but you also want some money set aside so you can make some modifications and stuff, because those add up so quickly. Like, when we moved into the house, although we really liked it and everything, it had popcorn ceiling in most of the rooms, which was just really ugly. So we had someone come in and, you know, smooth out the ceilings and all that. We also added some walls that needed some touching up. We needed to buy paint. We painted the house ourselves, but, you know, we still had to go out and buy all of the painting supplies. And, you know, that's just a lot of stuff that you got to be able to pull together. You know, we also wanted some lights installed because certain rooms didn't really have good lighting, and it was nice to do all that stuff before we formally moved into the house. We took care. I wish I had a bow at least. Hopefully I didn't skip one earlier. You know, it's nice to take care of those sorts of things before you move all your junk into the house, because you have this nice empty house that you're able to work with. And then the other thing is that, like, when you go from an apartment to a big house, like, you do not have the furniture or supplies to fill out all the rooms yet. So that's something you got to keep in mind too. So we're definitely, like, saving up money, buying furniture, saving up money, buying furniture. And, you know, that's kind of the rhythm that we're in. Hopefully that golden apple comes in clutch. I might really need that. So yeah, I mean, living in a house has been fun, but it's definitely come with some learning lessons that are worth keeping in mind if you're looking to buy a house in the near future. So we'll start the death match off here. It looks like those two might be going against each other. Not a big arena, unfortunately, so maybe I'll try to pick off this person first. Nope, don't want to fight them. They're gapping up. I can't fight these people, man. Okay, they're going at it. Man, that was a decent attempt. Decent attempt, but I just can't get the upper hand here, it seems. Oh well. I'll try again in the next round. This might be a quick match. There's only 6 players in this match. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about what's been happening over the last 10 years. I mean, if I had to describe my current life, I have a role as a financial analyst that I really enjoy. And I'm a part of a rowing club that I really enjoy rowing with, and, you know, it's fun to be able to compete with them and have that sense of community. I have a lot of friends in the Charlotte area. I get to spend, you know, I get to see my wife every evening, and even a lot of times during the day as I'm working remote. And, you know, I get to travel a decent amount, and that's been fun, and I get to play a lot of video games. That's kind of what I do in my free time when I'm, you know, stuck at the house, so to speak. And, you know, all of that has just been really enjoyable. I mean, it took a lot of turmoil to get to this point in my life, but I'm really happy with the way everything has turned out over the last 10 years. I think I've really set myself up to have a life that I'm very excited for, especially as I start to enter my 30s pretty soon. So that's pretty much all I have to talk about in terms of life updates, but I also, you know, teased at the beginning that I had some thoughts on the current Minecraft landscape and wanted to talk about, like, you know, why I ultimately left Minecraft and everything like that. I mean, first and foremost, I always knew the channel would be a 2-year project. I knew I would always end it before heading off to college, and that was mainly because, you know, going to college, you know, I didn't want to be that terminally online guy who was just sitting in the dorm room playing video games all day. I wanted to go out and experience college, and I very much did that, and I have no regrets about doing that. But, you know, I also didn't want the stigma of being a Minecraft YouTuber or anything like that. But also, with all that said, like, I think MCSG had really run its course by that time. And, you know, I think I was I was just very over it, because MCSG shifted a lot over the years. I mean, first off, one of the things I have to say about why I even got into MCSG is it was the only Battle Royale game on the market at the time, which I thought was insane, considering the Hunger Games movies were, you know, coming out around then and everything, but like PUBG wasn't a thing, Fortnite wasn't a thing, just these Battle Royale type of games just weren't popular, which I thought was insane, because it was such a cool game mode idea for a multiplayer game. And even something like H1Z1 didn't come out till like 2015, so like Minecraft having survival games in like 2012, 2013, they were well ahead of the curve. Now, I started Minecraft survival games in 2012 and 2013, despite starting the channel in 2014. You know, there was about a year or two where I was playing and I wasn't recording videos, and I wasn't, you know, I wasn't doing anything to post on YouTube. I was just having fun with myself and sometimes with friends. Is there a chest somewhere around here? I could use a better weapon. There we go, speak of the devil. But, you know, Minecraft survival games at first, I liked how casual it was, because, you know, even if you played 1 or 2 hours a day, just a few days a week, you could generally be better than the rest of the pack. Like, no one was a super try-hard. It was very easy to just kind of like slip into the matches and just have a good time, and you didn't have to stress too much about it. And also, Minecraft YouTube was popping off during that time. And a lot of survival games content was being made then, and it was really nice, because with the survival games content, like, yes, people were talking about the game, and, you know, they'd be talking about what would be going on in their matches, but they were also just talking about their lives in general, just things that they found interesting. The video topics were just a lot more fun at that time. And, you know, survival games, like, I think I really enjoyed having the dead time in the game. It kind of gave you a chance to breathe. I think running around in Minecraft is just a lot of fun in and of itself. So, you know, I think MCSG was in a really special place at that time. But then I think they got really competitive with things in 2015 and 2016, especially like as Badlion was becoming more popular. It was just all the focus shifted over to PvP, and it was like, hey, check out this PvP tips and tricks video, and instead of like, hey, let's have a fun video and we're gonna like maybe get 2 kills but just have a good time, it quickly became like, I'm gonna cut out all the dead time from my video and we're gonna try to kill 10 people in the match. And like it just got so competitive. People were playing like 6 or 7 hours a day just to try to keep up with it, and I just didn't have that time anymore. So anyway, let's hope we have a good death match here. I know I can make a diamond sword, that's not lost on me, but I don't want to fight anybody. I need to be here for the cleanup crew, and I think everyone can tell that I'm lagging, so they're like, they're cool going after me. That was an extremely slow craft, but we got it off. Okay, there's 3 people left. Seems like they're duking it out. Let's slide in. Seems like the bow is a better deal here. He's gapping up. That's all my arrows. Gotta go back to the sword. Oh man, that was a real good attempt on my part, I gotta say. I think I played the strategy correctly, but he just had the gaps to continue to heal himself. Oh well, still a good match nonetheless, so I'll continue talking about Minecraft in the next round. So like I was saying, I think just the entire landscape of Minecraft changed. People wanted a more competitive game, and a lot of the YouTube commentaries, started to become all the same, because all of them would just talk about the PvP and none of them would really talk about, just what was going on in their lives. And I think I just started to enjoy Minecraft less as a whole because of all that. Now, all that being said, it was also probably natural that I was growing out of the game. I'd just been playing it for so long. And I'm not saying like grow out as in like I got old enough and couldn't have fun with it anymore. It was more just like it had run its course in my life. I had just been doing it for so long that like naturally I think just a big change was in order. So, I think it had just run its course and it was time to move on to something new. Nothing wrong with that. We're actually having a pretty good start this round, if I do say so myself. But yeah, so that's everything that happened with the Minecraft landscape. And I'm not talking about my channel specifically. I always tried to talk about what was going on in my life. And yes, you do have to kind of talk about the game while you're playing it, but I still wanted to keep that old school feel to it, where, it was just about having fun and, just doing your best. And, if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. So, I just tried to keep everything lighthearted and fun as my channel ran its course. But kind of talking about the gaming landscape as a whole here, I shifted away from PC games once I got to college. My freshman year, I just really didn't have a lot of time on my hands to dedicate to video games. And when I did, it was really just like emulating old Nintendo games on my MacBook or something like that. Or, it wasn't anything special. And I didn't really have any console games at that point. But one of the most defining things about my freshman year that I remember is that was when, like, the Nintendo Switch, the first trailer came out for that in maybe October or September or something like that. And it eventually came out in March, and I was able to get my hands on one in April. And I just remember when I saw that initial trailer for the Switch, I just knew it was for me. I mean, especially because they were trying to cater to the young adult demographic, and, especially with college and stuff, it'd be nice to take with me on the go and everything. And, I'd been missing console gaming. I mean, the entire time I had Minecraft, I was missing out on the entire Wii U, Xbox One, PS4 generation of games that was coming out. So like the Nintendo Switch was going to be a good jumping off point. I just thought the console itself was just such an original and cool idea. I mean, props to Nintendo, man. I mean, coming up with an idea that you have your console quality game and then you can pick it up and you still have your console quality game with you on the go. I mean, yes, it was not the most powerful thing in the world, but it was still a much, like, this was the best compromises game. Like, normally you had to compromise a game's, like, playability for its portability, so to speak, and the Switch is the closest we had ever seen to where, like, that was not going to be an issue. You know what I mean? And I also, like, it was just so well thought out. Like, they had how you could pop off the Joy-Con controllers, and then you automatically had, like, 2 controllers built into the system, so you could hand one to your friend. I mean, that was just such a great idea. And, you know, the thing that I remember the most about the Switch is probably the best gaming experience I've had in my life was playing Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time completely blind on my brand new Nintendo Switch. I don't want to fight that guy. On my brand new Nintendo Switch when I was in college. It was just such a fun jumping off point, such an amazing game. There was just so much to like about it. And, you know, it was just such a magical experience. Now, obviously, a few years later, the Xbox Series X and the PS5 came out. I got the Xbox Series X at launch. So that was during 2020. I mean, all this time I talked about being very lonely in my apartment when I was away. Hopefully I outran that guy. I don't think I did, though. All that time I was lonely when I was living in Kansas City and Cincinnati, I just played a lot of video games. So when I had my Xbox, you know, I got Game Pass, so I was able to catch up on, like, most of the Xbox One generation of games. And, you know, I played a lot of favorites there. I still had my Switch, so, like, I was playing Mario Kart, I was playing Metroid, I was playing Mario Odyssey. You know, even the Switch had some good, ports to it. Like, I played Doom, I played The Witcher 3, which Doom was a good port. Witcher 3 was kind of lackluster, but, you know, it was still fun to play a big game like that portably on my Switch too, you know what I mean? And then on Xbox, like, I finally got around to playing all the Halo games, and, okay, I'm gonna fight this guy now. Yeah, I just didn't really have any options there. But like I was saying, I got into all the Halo games, Gears, Fable, Red Dead 2, GTA 5, Forza, you know, some other stuff like Resident Evil. So, like, I was really doing my catching up on all the gaming that I had missed out on because I had dedicated everything to Minecraft. And I'll tell you more in the next match. So like I was saying, I was very much in the Nintendo and Xbox ecosystems. I bought the Xbox when it released in 2020, and then about a year later I picked up the PS5. And I got it not only to play the PS4 games that I missed out on, but I also wanted to play the new PS5 games that were coming out. Especially since PlayStation has a lot of exclusives. So some of the games that ended up being my favorites were like Horizon Forbidden Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, The Last of Us 2, the Uncharted series, the Spider-Man games, Ratchet and Clank, Returnal and Sorrows, Astro Bot. You know, there were just so many good games that released on PlayStation, PS4, PS5. So, like, at this point in time, I can say, like, without question, I am 100% a console gamer. I don't really play PC games anymore. I mean, especially multiplayer ones, just because all the multiplayer games these days on PC, they are just so competitive. And, like, who has time for that anymore? Like, I'm working 40 hours a week, and I'm trying to be with my rowing team and, you know, spend some time with my wife and, you know, have a social life and everything. It's just like, it is just impossible to be able to, I don't know where the chests are on this map. It is just absolutely impossible to be able to play like a PC game online these days. And I think solo games are just a lot more relaxing. And it's not like I'm averse to challenge or anything. Like, I'll still play like the Souls games, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, stuff like that. So, you know, challenge is something I'm completely okay with, but I just don't have the time to like really hone in my craft and get good at a multiplayer game. There's another chest down here. I just have no idea where it is, and I gotta move along. And yeah, the console experience is just so much easier to get into. You don't have to tinker with anything. And I just found myself much more interested in those types of games. Oh, wow. So anyway, I mean, that's kind of where I am on the gaming landscape. I'm just pretty much only into console games at this point. This is probably the first time I've played a game on my PC in a little bit over a year. So I'll transition over to the next match now. 6 people. This might be another quick match here. But there was something I did want to discuss, at least at some point in this video, and it's actually some pretty exciting news. Some of you might have already noticed, but I totally got rid of the speech impediment that I had. It's super obvious if you go back and watch my old videos. Oh wait, there's a grace period thing that they do now. I forgot about that. Well, I still got some great gear. So I'm in a great position to get moving here. But as I was saying, like, I wasn't able to pronounce the letter R correctly pretty much my entire childhood and teenage life. I just, you know, everyone was always telling me you don't pronounce R correctly, you don't say your R's correctly, all that. But whenever I would hear my own voice in my own ears, it always sounded correct to me. So it just wasn't like a top of mind issue that I needed to fix. But I mentioned earlier that I was a summer camp counselor for a couple years, and there was at one point when I got pulled into the director's office, which seemed extremely weird to me because I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, what's going on here? And then the director of the camp was like, hey, I used to be like a speech pathologist. I think that's the correct word for it. It's like a speech teacher. And she was like, I used to be a speech pathologist, and I recognize the fact that you don't say your R's correctly. So let me help you learn how to say them correctly. And you know, at first I was kind of really embarrassed at this moment because it was like, here was the top dog at the summer camp that I was working at, like pulling me into the office just to tell me this. But you know, I took the opportunity and I really made the most of it. And I was actually very gracious of the fact that she pointed this out to me and was willing to help. And she kind of gave me the drills and like mouth exercises I needed to do to teach myself how to speak correctly. I mean, it took a lot of work on my end. Like, it felt like I was talking with a funny voice every time I was pronouncing the letter R correctly. It just didn't feel like my own voice, but I just made a point to talk like that 24/7, and after about a month, it became second nature to me. So I was finally able to knock that off the checklist, which was really good. You know, I don't think it ever hindered me too much, but it might have gotten to a point in my career where it really could have started to hinder me. I mean, it's not that bad when you're growing up and, you know, it's kind of just all based on your schoolwork, so to speak. But, like, appearances matter, so to speak, in your career. So, like, I think it was very important that that was something that I nipped in the bud. But, you know, it was still, you know, I'm not like embarrassed or anything that I used to talk differently, but I am glad I kind of sorted that situation out. And another thing I wanted to address too is in a lot of my old videos, sometimes I would record videos with my friend Charles, or sometimes I'd record videos with my friend Matt. So if you guys were ever curious what happened to them, they are still 2 of my best friends. Both of them were groomsmen in my wedding, and I talked to both of them regularly. And you know, they both went to very good. I don't want to give too much details about them because I don't know if I necessarily have their permission. But you know, they both went to very good schools, got some very good degrees. Charles is living in New England. My friend Matt is living in the Midwest. They're both doing extremely well for themselves. And, you know, just all is good with them. I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad that the boys are doing all right. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw that in there just in case any of y'all were curious whatever ended up happening to them. they're alive and they are doing well. But I guess one thing in thinking about it that I also want to talk about is like kind of my thoughts on the whole Minecraft with Liam project. Oh, I don't know if I can get those are invisible blocks. I want to talk about what the Minecraft with Liam project is like now that I'm 10 years removed from it. Because one thing I think that's very obvious is that I did not take the channel down or delete any of my videos, which I think people might think is odd because they're like, well, Liam, like, don't you think those videos are a little cringy now? Like, aren't you a little bit embarrassed by them? And like, I will admit that there is a very, very, very slight part of me that is, finds the videos a little bit cringy. I was just a teenager at the time and all that. So like, I do cringe a little when I look at them, but by and large, I have this overwhelming feeling of I am so glad that these are up here on YouTube still, for several reasons. I mean, number one, I think even though they are a little bit cringy, I think they're really cool in the fact that like I was completely authentic in those videos. I was completely myself, and because I did everything exactly the way I wanted to, and it all came together exactly the way I designed it, and it was just this really cool project that I put a lot of work into. And because, I was so authentic and stayed true to myself, that's what made it cool. And I think that was something that I'm really proud of and everything. And it's also just such a well-documented period of my life. I mean, a lot of stuff from like 10, 11, 12 years ago is so fuzzy in my memory. I'm like, what was that like? I don't really recall it, but I'm like, oh yeah, I did a video on that. And then I can go back and watch the video and hear my own account of the matter. You know what I mean? So it's really nice to have that. And to be honest, a lot of the videos were very well produced, edited well. They're still very watchable today. And, a lot of the commentaries are really good and fun to watch, I think. Still, not every video is a winner, I'll admit. But the ones that are still hold up extremely well. And I'm getting a lot of FPS lag here, so hopefully that starts to improve as I move to different areas of the map. I certainly don't want to fight anybody with this sort of frame rate. I'm at 25 FPS. Yeesh. But anyway, I thought, I just thought my channel was the coolest thing. I'm really honored to have it still up on YouTube, even though it's still probably hard to find. I mean, odds are, if you're watching the video, you held on to your channel for the last 10 years. So, props to you for staying subscribed. And one thing that is kind of interesting is initially when I went to college, I didn't tell anybody about the channel because, I didn't want the stigma of being like the Minecraft YouTuber and all that. I kind of wanted a clean slate, so to speak. But when I was a sophomore, somebody I was friends with in high school entered Clemson as a freshman. And they told everybody, like, maybe 30 minutes in a giant group chat right before this huge party was about to go down. So, like, I was doing a lot of damage control on my behalf at that party. But, people would kind of they'd give me a little flack for it, but I'm like, look, dude, I stand behind those videos. Like, it was this really cool thing I did in high school. Like, it was a really fun project. The videos are edited well. And, like, people hadn't really had a chance to go see the videos because, everyone found out about them right before the party. But then some of my friends and teammates, they would go home and then they would watch the Minecraft with Liam videos, and it became a thing in my friend group from what I heard that I never took part in this, but like, some of my friends would get very drunk after a night on the town and they'd come back to the apartment and they didn't necessarily want to go to bed, and it'd be like 5 or 6 of them and they'd be like, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, dude, let's watch some Minecraft with Liam videos. And they'd blow through like 7 or 8 videos or something. And like, they'd tell me the next day, they'd be like, dude, I watched your video on this or that. Like, that was really cool, or that was a really great story or a great video. So like, in a lot of ways, it actually ended up kind of being this cool thing that I had, everyone find out about my Minecraft with Liam videos. It was like, a lot of my new friends really came to respect them. One other thing I wanted to mention is I've gotten so many positive messages over the years from you guys. People have left messages on the YouTube channel. People have DM'd me on Instagram because I released my Instagram, which I'll put on the screen now if I remember to do it. You're more than welcome to follow me. But people followed me on Instagram and will sometimes DM me there. They'll be like, hey, dude, I just saw you graduated college. Or, hey, dude, I saw you just got married. Like, congrats. I hope all is well. And even recording this video, I haven't been showing it, but in between the lobbies and stuff, people have ever been like, dude, I used to watch all your videos. It's good to see you, man. So like, it's just, I really appreciate those of you that have had me in your thoughts over the years. It really does mean a lot to me that like my videos made a positive impact on you guys. And I mean, odds are when you were watching my videos, you were somewhere between the ages of like 10 and 18, so you're now between the ages of 20 and 28. And I know the 20s is a very rough time in your life to go through. There's a lot you kind of got to get in order, but I hope everyone is doing well. I've appreciated all the messages you sent me, and even if times are a little tough, my one piece of advice to everyone out there is who's in your 20s is like, everybody in their 20s always has something wrong that they're trying to fix. It is not just you. Some people are saddled with a bunch of debt from school and they're broke beyond belief. Some people can't find a relationship or a romantic partner to be with, and they desperately want to be in one. Some people can't get the right job. Some people can't really make any friends, and some people have it all and are just still not happy and can't really figure out what they want to do with their lives. So all that to say, like, if you're having a bad time, man, just hang in there. Things will get better. I'm going to try to team up with this guy. So hopefully that's a little piece of advice that you can take moving forward. So let's fight off this death match here. Oh man, they're coming straight for me. I don't like the looks of that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm still teamed with this guy. I'm just trying to get out of the line of fire. I don't want to waste all my arrows because I only got 9 of them, you know what I mean? And I don't want this guy to clean me up either. It's a lot of camera changes. I don't want to get near anybody. I don't want to. I'm still teaming with this guy. Like, I mean, he probably doesn't like the fact that I'm not attacking, but it's like, I need to save those arrows for when somebody's low. You know what I mean? Okay. Oh, man, I actually got some very good hits in that death match. Maybe one more and I would have been able to take them out, but unfortunately, luck just wasn't on my side there. So I'll continue rolling into the next match now. So I know we're kind of coming toward the end of the video here, and I do want to give some of my thoughts about the future and I guess just what's to come and all that. But before I get into that, I did want to take a moment to say that, like, one of my regrets with the Minecraft with Liam channel is that I didn't make more predictions about the future. It would have been really fun to look back on all that, you know what I mean? But, and, you know, the reason I didn't make more predictions is because, like, if I made predictions about what would happen in 2020 or 2025, you know, I don't think I would have really... I don't think I would have followed up on those predictions because I didn't realize I wanted to make this 10-year video until rather recently. With all that being said, the one prediction I did make about the future is that I predicted that Donald Trump would win the U.S. presidency in 2016. It was one of like the last 10 or 15 videos I uploaded to the channel. And I know it might not seem like it's that surprising of a thing to say now, but, you know, at the time, he was really the underdog. Hillary Clinton was the clear favorite. But at the end of my video, the thing I said, if you go to the last minute, I said it so succinctly. I'm like, you know, all the polls are going to say Hillary's ahead. And, you know, everyone going into election night is going to think that she's going to win by a couple states. But then it's going to be a surprise and, you know, Trump's going to win. And I said my argument was that he dominated the news cycle and controlled a lot of the narrative for the election and just couldn't get out of the media attention. And all of what I said turned out to be 100% correct. So I just wanted to acknowledge that my one bold prediction that I did make turned out to be right. Now, I wouldn't have expected that in 2026 the president would still be Donald Trump. That in and of itself is kind of wild, but you know, it's just been a very interesting last 10 years, so to speak. But that's all I want to say about that. But moving on to a different topic, you know, what's in store for me in the future? What am I going to be doing in the future? Well, you know, Kristen and I, we've definitely been talking about kids. You know, we've been married about a year and a half at the time I'm recording this. And, you know, we want a little bit longer without kids. But you know, maybe in like 3, 4, 5 years, I think it'll be about time when we're ready. And, you know, I think we're going to be in a much better position to be parents at that time. And I think just mentally, I think we'll just be a lot more prepared just because it will have been something we would have talked about longer. We would be more comfortable with each other in the marriage just because the marriage would have been going for a few years by that point. So, I definitely think kids are on the agenda for us. Unfortunately, that was another lousy match there for me. Hopefully I can end with a win in the last match, but no guarantees here. This is probably going to be the final match of the video. And isn't it crazy that I've gotten no repeat maps the entire recording? Like, that's almost unbelievable. Okay, you know, not a bad start here. Definitely have some means to defend myself, but look at how laggy everyone is. Anyway, in this final part of the video, the one thing I wanted to address is, you know, people in the back of their minds are probably wondering, is this video indicative of anything new? Is this a comeback to YouTube or any other projects or anything along those lines? And, you know, unfortunately, the answer to all of that is no, it isn't. You know, I wish I could have something better to say than that. But, you know, I appreciate that. Ooh, I got a kill there. Look at all this loot. You know, I'm glad you guys stuck around and, you know, have been rooting for me this whole time. It's an honor, truly. Let me just get everything organized here. You know, and I've had a lot of fun coming back and recording this video. But like I kind of said at the top, this is just a one-time deal, especially because I just don't really have the time to get back into content creation. You know, when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I had a lot more time on my hands, but now that I'm working and, you know, I need to spend time with my wife and my rowing team and my friends and, you know, all that stuff, I just don't really have the time to give something like YouTube my all anymore, or certainly not enough time to stream either. But that all being said, like, there is a part of me in the back of my mind that, like, longs for content creation. Like, I do miss making YouTube videos to some extent. Like, I think at the end of the day, I really just enjoy being on a microphone. I think it's just a skill that is really suited toward me. I enjoy talking. I find it relaxing, and it's just a lot of fun to me to do. And I think a lot of people, like, I think I talk in a very unique way, and people, you know, obviously it was a big hit with the Minecraft with Liam channel, so I think it's just something that people like about me. And I think it's a skill I'm kind of like naturally suited toward in a sense. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm like the best speaker of all time or anything. By no means do I believe that, but I just think it's a skill that I find fun, and you know, if I have the time, it might be something I come back to later. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if that's like a YouTube channel or a podcast. I really like podcasts, if you didn't know. So you know, I don't know if any of that sort of stuff is in my future, but like, especially since I just mentioned that kids are potentially on the horizon, you know, if like a few years from now, like, I could be dealing with little kids. Like, I am not going to have the time or the patience to deal with a project like YouTube or a podcast. If I ever do make a new project, though, I'll definitely announce it on the Minecraft with Liam channel and potentially on Instagram, so like you'd have a chance to follow me and all that. So definitely just stay subscribed, because you never know what I'm going to post to this channel. But like, I don't think I'm going to be recording a 20-year special for Minecraft with Liam, so to speak. Just because, like, you know, I could have a 6 and a 4-year-old by that point. And if I have a free weekend where, like, my wife and the kids are away, I'm probably just going to be excited to have a quiet house to where I can have some time to myself. It's not going to be like, ooh, let's hop on MCSG. And I mean, to be honest, MCSG is barely hanging on a thread 10 years after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think it's going to make it another 10 years. Like, it is cool that it's back. I am having a great time with having it back, but, you know, it's not very populated right now. Like, there are... I don't know if I want... let's see what's down there. You know, like, it's a Friday night, and I've been playing with the same... Like, there's maybe 40 or 45 people on the server right now. I've been playing with the same people lobby after lobby after lobby. And, you know, there's enough people to where, like, there's always a lobby that's filling up, and then you can play a match, but it's always one lobby. So, if you don't like the maps, you know... That's it. Those are the maps, man. So, and especially not having my rank at the moment, I can't really get my votes out there because it's still chance based. Now, all this being said, I've had an absolute blast recording this video. It was fun even just setting up and getting all my plugins together and, like, trying to see what worked and what didn't. And, you know, I'm going to try my absolute hardest with the edit. I know it's not going to be perfect. The video quality might not be 100% of what I would like it to be. I know this headset on this microphone is not as good as the one I used to have on my old headset. That one broke. Like, the foam on the ear cups, just like after all that moving I did, it just kind of tore itself away from the ear cups, and just kind of became, you know, very tattered at that point. So like, sorry about all that, but I am going to try my best to give this like a true authentic edit. I'll give it my all, and hopefully it comes together. And I hope you've had a real fun time watching this video. It is fun, especially like once you get a little bit older in your 20s, you can like look back on stuff you did as a teenager or when you were really young, and you really get to enjoy that feeling of nostalgia. It's such a unique and powerful feeling. I mean, I actually went to my 10-year high school reunion last month, and it was just, you know, blast from the past. I hadn't spoken to most of those people in the full 10 years. And, you know, it's just a really fun feeling to be like, you know, I'm at this new part of my life. All the things are going well. I wouldn't trade any of it. But, you know, it is fun just to have a little sliver of what life used to be like back then. So hopefully I'm returning a bit of that to you. If you have anything to say to me, definitely like leave it in the comments. You're always welcome to like DM me on Instagram. Leave comments on this channel. I'll definitely be checking, and I'll definitely try to reply to every comment that I see. But by and large, I just hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody's having a lot of fun, and I hope everybody's like making their way in their life, finding their path. Even if there's some struggles at some point, you know, that you just gotta dust yourself off and get back to it. So I just really hope that like everything is all right for everybody. And I hope you guys feel good knowing that, like, things are going well for me, and I'm extremely grateful for where things are at. So with all that being said, let's hope we can pull off a win in deathmatch. I'm not saying it's a guarantee by any means. Everyone else looks pretty stacked, if I'm being honest. Hopefully I can team with somebody. No one's looking my way. Please look my way. That guy looks like he's out for blood. I'm gonna make a mad dash to the left. Okay, he doesn't want to get me. Everyone's at a standstill. And what's weird is that this is soul sand. So, like, it really messes up, like, your sprint, so to speak. Which might actually work in my favor, you know, given the fact that, like, oops, don't want to be caught on the outside. Given the fact that, like, my ping has been awful this entire time, it's not exactly the worst thing in the world that people could have their sprint broken. But Ooh, I got 1 kill. Ah, you know. At least I got that 1 win at the top of the video. You know, at least that means to some extent I still got it. But, you know, with my new internet setup and everything, I just don't think it's really going to be that viable. Guess we'll see how this match ends up really quick. I'm not really pulling for or against anybody here, but let's just see. Man, that's a lot of trading hits back and forth. I don't think I would have been able to keep up with something like that, to be honest with you. But someone's got to die soon. They've been trading hits back and forth. They both got to be low. Alright, there we go. You have a winner there. So anyway, I'll go back to the hub here real quick. So yeah, that was a fun trip down memory lane. And it was really good to just be able to hop back on the microphone, back on the computer, and be able to record an old school Minecraft video again. So take care. I hope all is well. And with all that being said, thank you for watching today's episode of MCSG, and I'll see you guys around. Peace!